Two traders, two visions, two objectives, one chart. The bottom line.
Welcome back to The Bottom Line. I'm Paul Sampson.
And I'm Benjamin Poole.
And we have had yet another jam-packed week in the market. So Bitcoin had its ETF approval this week. We've seen the stock market have a ton of volatility. We're just going to jump right on into it. So Ben,
the Bitcoin, man, the Bitcoin ETF, right? That was the big news.
Yeah, apparently. So
what happened?
To me, I'm not a huge news guy on stuff like that.
Right.
I don't think that really should adjust your trading plan, but it was definitely in the news. Definitely had heads turned for quite a bit. And we'll jump into it here in a bit. So, but yeah, otherwise let's jump into some of the stocks and see how they performed, and we'll take it from there.
So we had JPM earnings today, and they came out really hot. Let me go ahead and adjust this for you guys so you can actually see it.
Earnings were today?
Earnings were this morning at 7 a.m., right? So we saw this going into this. So this is the weekly chart, and we had 10 up candles. Let me go ahead and reset this. 10 up candles, right? So going into earnings. So if we were going to see something happen on this chart, it was going to be a pullback, right? So we started with a little bit of a pullback yesterday, but then this morning when the earnings came out, wow, they just went so much higher. Well, I've actually got this parallel channel that coordinates right here with the top. And then I've got this other parallel channel. You guys can't see this, so let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit for you guys.
It's the sneaky one.
This is the sneaky one. So here's this one parallel channel, and here's the other parallel channel that I have drawn in here. And parallel channels are magical, especially with the third hit of this trend line. I'm just kidding. This is the fourth hit.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I know.
My boy's sandbagging parallel channels and getting 4 hits.
All right, so the really nice thing that I see in this chart is not only did we have 10 up days in a row, now we're putting in what's called a topping tail. So this is a weekly topping tail. At the beginning of the week, it looked like we were going to close higher, and so that was going to be the 11th week in a row that this chart was up. But now, this is a nice reversal candle. And so this could be the top for JPM, and we could actually see it come down to the middle line of this parallel channel right here, and ultimately down to this middle line, which coordinates with this parallel channel, okay? So that's my target on JPM. So What do you got on Bitcoin?
Yeah, let's get to the main squeeze here, right? As far as everybody's been looking for this week. So for Bitcoin, right? So I've got a lot of noise almost kind of circling this little region here. So these are the areas that I would take them off, but I think that they're very significant to keep in mind. These are all for me, these are really key levels to the downside that we basically left on this, quick rise up. So I'm keeping them in mind because that's definitely the targets as if we start to get a pullback as to what I'll look for. But other than that, the rise up, if you were to take a gold pocket Fibonacci pull from the all-time high at 69K down to the current low over here, like 15.5, depending on the exchange, the 0.618 comes in right about 48,650. The high of that gold pocket comes in right at 50,000. And then there's one other level that I have significantly higher than that. Not significant, but marked out, I guess, just a bit higher than that, which was 52. And I would almost map off this whole section as a box, right? Like an area to just kind of pay attention for. It might not be perfect. We might not get to all those targets here. And honestly, we came into a pretty big one across the board here. So, right, you come into your macro gold pocket. There's also another level up here, which we left from last year, which was a naked point of control, right? So you hear me talk about these often. And essentially, when a time period closes, depending on what you're looking at, you'll see I have a couple others here. This is a weekly naked point of control. These are daily ones down here. This is a daily and a weekly. And what those are, they're volume targets at the end of the day. So when you pull a range based on volume, you'll see one right here. This white line right there is the point of control, which is the most traded area of that certain. You can either pull it based on structure or on time. So if you're going to pull it in the sense of a structural range, or a day, a week, a month, a quarter, a year, what have you. So last year, or 2021, December, this was the naked or the point of control for December that we left. We had a really big pullback. If you could see right here, I'll kind of scoot it over. I think I have it actually highlighted up here. Could be wrong. But essentially, when we had this huge move down, generally when you get these huge moves, you'll leave some things behind, right? So we had the naked point of control. So this is not it, but I just don't have it pulled up. But it is right there, about 49K, right on the nose. And that is literally where we hit to the T on the, I guess, the ETF news, right? To me, this is a very technical retracement. And realistically, when you look at that ETF news, we got all this kind of tomfoolery, which doesn't look that bad now, but I think it was the day before when we had the fake tweet.
Fake tweet?
Yeah, twice in a row now. So you've had a fake ETF tweet or whatever it was, maybe by Cointelegraph back in October, and then it immediately got pulled right after a nice spike. Then you had this one now by the SEC, pulled within seconds after a nice spike. And then when we actually got the ETF launched, wasn't too much fireworks. We did actually get this move up throughout yesterday, and everybody kind of attested that to the ETF going live, and people were trading, going crazy. But like I said, this was a natural volume target, especially as we're coming up to that region. You had your natural retracement area at the 0.618. Could we come back up in this area? Absolutely. But at the moment, with the reaction we've seen off that at the moment, I would imagine we get at least stay in this region right now for a bit. Maybe the altcoins get a little run, and then an overall pullback. I'll zoom in a little bit here too to kind of take a look at what we were looking at today. Right, so on a shorter time frame, we had today's daily open. We were looking to trade this earlier today, and this was really nice. So we had the daily open here. All right, so this is a key area for the day. We came back, we back tested it really nicely. We had our previous day low marked out. As soon as we lost that, we're looking down to our weekly open in this little region here, kind of boxed it off. This is actually the point of control from the previous range. So kind of boxed that area off. So that was a nice short that we were looking for today. Looking to see if we start to reclaim weekly open for any kind of a bounce back at the moment.
Awesome.
Do you have
anything else?
Yeah,
no,
I was gonna say, let's take a look.
The thing that I was looking at is, you notice you've got a topping tail right there on the 4-hour, and then you've also got topping tail on the weekly. And so, that could usually, the last time an ETF came out, right, that signaled the top. And so with a topping tail, high volume, now that it's hit your point of control, could this be the top?
Oh, there's definitely got the makings for a top for a while, yeah. So, especially with, like I said, the reaction we've gotten now. One of the things I wanted to point out is that, if we do, like for me, it's Friday. So this weekly open, for example, is a key level to me at the moment. However, that will change as we get a new weekly open next week. So depending on how the rest of today goes, if we start to claim that, I could see us maybe getting another bounce back up. And what I'd be looking for is just a normal golden pocket retrace, right? So basically, we would see something along the lines of this, where you potentially get a reclaim up in this area, and then we run it back to maybe just under 47K again. Otherwise, lower is probably going to be the way. And like I said, with all those levels down below, last week we were actually on. I was looking to see if we would come down and take this low. We had just put in this drop, but we did not take this low over here. Essentially, I guess we did take these. We came in, I think we hit our monthly average, but aside from that, we really didn't take anything materially. Ethereum, on the other hand, did, and that was like one of the things I was looking at. I was like, man, the Ethereum setup is there, but I was waiting to see if Bitcoin would actually come down and appropriately take these lows, hit that daily naked point of control, and get a little bounce, but we obviously just went up from there. So, yeah, interesting stuff, but I do think that we, at some point, are going to come down and make our way through this little region here. Last year, or I talk on the yearly pivots quite often, and pivot for me is the average. So whether it's a quarter, a month, what have you. These are statistical averages, like a mean reversion. So similar to a moving average, you'll see the price return to those areas. We have a new one for Bitcoin for this year. It's all the way down at 34,500. That is a yearly target, however, so it doesn't mean we have to get there now, but at some point throughout this year, that's a pretty decent area to look down to. Not really an unprobable retracement either. You're talking about that's probably 25%, which is normal for Bitcoin after some of these rallies. But yeah, I definitely anticipate us to come in and kind of clear out some of these areas we left down below.
Awesome. I just realized that I didn't give you guys any levels on JPM because if you guys don't have these lines on your charts, then you guys won't know anything. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the JPM chart real quick just to give you a couple levels that I'm looking at for potential downside. So what I would do with this chart is right now, I wouldn't short it. It's a little too late. I would wait for a retrace. So you're going to wait for a retrace at the middle point. So really the high part of this. So basically 172.90 would be your entry point on JPM. And then for the downside, you've got this pivot high right here. You're going to get a lot of support. And look at that. That coordinates really well with the center point of this parallel channel. And then down here, like I was, what happened to that? Oh, here's the middle of the channel. So I couldn't see it because it's got my line. You've also got this pivot area right here. So lots of choppiness here. And so 144.94 is going to be the second level that I have that JPM is going to hit down to. And then ultimately, you've got this gap fill. It's kind of like a naked point of control that Paul likes to talk about, right? So anytime there's a gap, they want to be filled. And so 125.02 is, I think, the next level for JPM. Okay, so now that I went over that, I'm going to go ahead and go into NVIDIA. Wow. So last week I saw this chart and I thought this one was really extended. I was wrong, right? Apparently, NVIDIA decided to shoot up another 10 to 15%, and then another 10 to 15% on top of that. So,
happens.
My gosh, this is why, when you start with swing trades, you don't just go all in one trade, right? You dollar cost average in, and as it starts moving through these levels, you identify different levels, and then you short a little bit more, right? So that's the key part of, that would be my biggest takeaway. If you guys are interested in taking part in shorts or longs, specific levels that you're looking for, you want to always make sure that you're DCAing into these positions, right? Because NVIDIA, you've got this line right here. It pierced this line, right? Right now we've got what's called a time count on the daily time frame, and then we put in what's called a hammer candle. So now I'm expecting this, and I said this last week, that I expect a reversal on NVIDIA. So the first level would be coming back down to the $503.99 level. That's going to be a major level because we hit this several times before finally breaking above it. All right. And then ultimately, I still have these levels in here. So 495 is going to be a nice level. You're going to have this gap fill just slightly lower, but I don't think this is going to be a big gap fill. So you might get some sort of a bounce, but ultimately 435.36 is still a big level that I have. We just got to wait for the markets to pull back a little bit. We are going into earnings season. And so just like JPM, it had it had good earnings, but you see it popped and then it came back in. And so with economic data and stuff like that that's coming through, we're going to have to look at all the charts and kind of analyze them and see what actually happens going forward. So what do you have for us?
So going back into crypto a little bit, so Ethereum, kind of have everything zoomed out here to just kind of take a higher time frame look. We had a similar situation. So Bitcoin just ran into the macro gold pocket. So that's from all-time high to the all-time low, or to the current low from last year, right? So Ethereum, on the other hand, I did pull two sets of gold pocket retracements. One of which is from 2022's high to our low, and that did come in. And the reason I did that was for a couple reasons. I had a lot of confluence in this region, but it comes in around that $2,600 area. We had a point of control from the old range here as well. We had a extension. We had a 1.618 fib extension as well from this current uptrend. Also, just a lot of things just kind of stacked up right there. So one of the things I was looking for this week was the 2023 high to get claimed. Obviously, we had a really nice move up there. That was right at the end of the year. We claimed it earlier this week, and then it was basically just straight up into that gold pocket. We're getting the pullback on Bitcoin. We've seen ETH kind of have a little bit of an inverse correlation to Bitcoin off and on, but it's still not like, just exploding. But during this push up, we did see the pull down in Bitcoin. So it's a unique time frame because when you see that, generally you get a little bit of a period where ETH is going to outperform Bitcoin, especially coming off of a time period where we just had a 200% impulse out of Bitcoin, but only a 100% impulse out of ETH. So Bitcoin was outperforming, Ethereum in that sense. So for me, my main target for Ethereum, and specifically in the Q1, does come into this region up here. It's 3,300, and really it starts about 32. I did mark out a monthly NPOC, so just similar to Bitcoin, what we just ran into at 49K. We have one same time frame on Ethereum, 2021, I believe, or possibly 2022, I'm sorry. But yeah, $3,000 is another major volume target above us if we start clearing this region. We have all this area down below us, of course, for any kind of a pullback. And but otherwise, yeah, on the higher time frame at the moment, barring whatever we're going to do in the short term, I imagine we're going to make our way up to that 3,300 in the short period here, in the midterm, I guess, on that aspect. Looking at this in a little bit of a zoomed in fashion, we've essentially just been playing around at this daily open. We actually had a really nice day trade today. I just kind of want to cover that really quickly. I'll go ahead and take off this gold pocket. You had a really nice day trade here. One of the thethings that I look for specifically is taking the highs and the lows, essentially because that, like, just as a trader, you're basically anybody that got into, let's just say, a short trade yesterday, right? You saw this big wick up. After that, you kind of look for your confirmations and what have you, and you're getting short in this region. Your stop loss is going to be above that recent high. This was yesterday, so now anybody that's been sitting in a short, they were feeling good. They saw Bitcoin taking a tumble. They had their stop loss in place. They're good to go. They had this run up here. We come right up to it. We take yesterday's high, stopped out everybody from yesterday, and then you get a nice little move down. And one thing I look to is that you're going to run yesterday's range, which is highlighted right here. A lot of times you'll actually run it back to the previous day low. So that was a really nice previous day high to the previous day low, about a 4.5% trade for today. And then otherwise, yeah, looking to see probably a little bit, potentially a pullback all the way back down to the 2023 high. But like I said, the overall idea for ETH is that we're going to pull up a bit. And then if I have another second here, Ben, I'm sorry, but I just want to cover another chart that it's interesting because it's a people will look to this once again more so to kind of get the idea for how Ethereum or Bitcoin are going, or if Ethereum is going to outperform or underperform Bitcoin, I guess is the idea. If ETH is outperforming Bitcoin, altcoins tend to look better. It doesn't necessarily always have to be. It might just be Ethereum pulling up. But we had a really nice sweep of the last 2 years. So there's a chart where you can actually, back in the day when I started trading crypto, I could only trade against Bitcoin. There was no USD pairing or anything like that. So you had to buy something, convert it to Bitcoin, then you had to do the math on how much Bitcoin you could trade into ETH and so on and so forth for your trades. So you can still trade that actively. But otherwise, yeah, you could utilize this to kind of get that gauge. And what happened right here was we took 2 years of the lows, and then we just got to skyrocket back to the yearly average right there. So potentially we get a little pullback here. Like I said, we're into the weekend. We've seen a good bunch of moves this week. So we might just get a cool down over the weekend. But a really interesting chart nonetheless. And I do have a lot higher targets for this as well. So I bring this up because it's kind of more so leading into the idea that potentially Bitcoin's topped where it's at. It might not see any more upside, while ETH could be clearing some of these levels here, getting into that $3,200 to $3,400 region, and leaving kind of Bitcoin to trade sideways and even possibly get a pullback.
Yeah, well, here's what I like about the ETH chart, right? So this is the weekly chart on Ethereum, and Bitcoin had this huge tail. This right here is a huge candle, and that to me is really bullish for Ethereum. Not only that, but we had this pivot high right here, and Ethereum got above it, chopped sideways, and then had this big up move. So you're going to have this 2593 level. So you have all this choppiness around here. So I think if it can get through this level, it'll continue to chop sideways. It can then get up to this 2835 level. And really, if you look at these red bar candles, there's usually a lot of selling volume. And so anytime you can get above one of these sell candles, that's really bullish. And so I actually do like your upside targets because, I mean, it's just putting in really good consolidation, right? So we just got to wait for it to consolidate a little bit more. And then, yeah, I think this is going to go higher. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
I'm liking the Ethereum chart.
Nice. All right, it's time for our segment, bullish or bearish. So I've got a chart loaded up, which I think I'm going to go with more of a bullish outlook on this, even though, we're at like some overheated areas on some of the Bitcoin charts and some of the stocks. But like I said, altcoins, I do think that if Ethereum's going to push up a bit, I think we're going to see the alts continue to see some upside also. One that I wanted to point out is Litecoin. This is actually the first coin I've ever gotten into in crypto. This was my gateway drug back in 2017. And it really hasn't done much over the last few weeks here, especially even when we've seen things like Solana, going 800%. Even recently, I didn't cover it today, but Ethereum Classic actually pushed up like 100% over the last few days. It's been pretty epic. But yeah, we've been in a really big range here for Litecoin. During the recent pullback, when Bitcoin, I think, fell back to like 44K right before the rise to 49, we came in and tagged the bottom of the range once again. We've obviously been, making our way higher here. We've got our yearly open that I've been paying attention for, so we're living above that at the moment. And overall, it's not a huge move compared to a lot of other cryptos. But at the moment, stair-stepping our way through some targets. I really like this area up here. It's the gold pocket, basically from the high to the low. We've got an untapped daily level, a horizontal daily level of resistance. There actually is an untapped monthly average up here at 98, so just below 100. So I would almost box off this like $8 window from 92 up to 98. It's about a 30% move if given from where we are now. Obviously, from lower would be better. But yeah, I'm thinking that Litecoin has some upside in the near future here.
So that big red bar candle doesn't scare you, like for your thesis?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay. So that's
you know what doesn't scare me at all, because if we're looking over here, let me make sure I can get this in the screen. When utilizing the volume profile specifically, as soon as we break above these highs right here, you'll notice that there's no volume basically all the way back up there either. So
that traded on light volume.
Exactly. So, and essentially when you get a really fast move down, generally when you break into it, you'll get that fast move back up. So,
because that's when the buyers step back in.
Correct.
And they say, all right, well, now it's time to own this one.
Time to party.
Time to party. All right, well, I have been very bullish on SE, so C Limited, for quite a while. But now I'm actually turning bearish, okay? So red bar candles for me are a sign of a strength, right? So I don't use the volume. I just look at the charts and say, all right, so we had this sideways consolidation. We do have these levels that go back actually for several years in SE. So C Limited was a $350 stock. Now it's trading at $35. So you can pick this thing up at a 90% discount, right?
The Dollar General herd.
Yeah.
Pick it up at the Dollar General.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we had this down move, but we had such great long-term support that I actually was very bullish on this, right? And so I actually put it out a couple times, and I was saying, if you can pick this up right at the bottom of this red bar, it'll go up, and then it'll stop about the midpoint, right? Because you have this pivot here. And then I said, okay, so if you're in it right about here, this red bar is going to give you some problems. So you could take half off the table and let it ride to here, to right around $42, and then sell here, but then you could buy again. And so that happened. And so you could have gotten in or out of this several times. Now, it is doing all this sideways consolidation right above this line. So the more times it hits a line, the less supportive that this line is going to be. So now...
Benny 3-tap.
Yeah. Well, this is multiple, right? So you got this 1, 2, 3, 4. But, this is a kiss, and if it comes down, this is another kiss of the line, right?
Benny 2 kiss.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So I'm bearish on this now. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm looking for as far as like downside targets and where you could potentially start picking up swing trades. Okay. So
Please.
What's that?
I said please.
Yeah. So you've got this level right here. So that's a gap fill. So right around $30.97. That would be my first entry into a swing trade, right? And we're not going to go all in because we're swing traders. We're going to wait for the next level because, like the NVIDIA chart, I mean, we can call them out, but doesn't mean the charts have to listen to us, right? So, and then we have another gap fill about $5 lower. So right around $25.39. So if it gets through this level, this is going to be your next support level. And I think for long term, that would be your level to ultimately get in for your second position.
we look forward to coming back and doing this all again next week. And
yeah, we appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate all the comments. Yes, CBO legend is one of the comments. We do appreciate you guys watching and commenting, and we will see you next time on The Bottom Line.